It's the Brad Field Weather Podcast, underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, voted among the best in its field 5 straight years in Hartford Magazine's Best Of survey. I'm Dan Lovallo. He is meteorologist Brad Field. We are putting this podcast together on October the 1st. And Brad, before we look back, as far as September was concerned, boy, that was some rain and windstorm we had night before last.
Well, it was great, and obviously, the past several podcasts we've been talking about the drought conditions here in Connecticut. So, every inch of rain we get really it helps the situation. We looked back on last week's podcast to the summer of 2020, and we discovered that in the months of June, July, August, and September, we were running a 10-inch rainfall deficit just in those 4 months. Well, as you say, Dan, when the system came through, we had about an inch to about an inch and a quarter for most places in the state. So that was a good, healthy dousing of rain. We need to keep it going. We've got more shower activity in the forecast for Friday. This is going to work out nicely because it looks like the weekend is going to be good. And then it looks like we've got another storm system coming the first thing next week with another chance of rain coming up during the day on Monday. So we're bookending the weekend with Friday showers. I don't think they'll be that big of a deal tomorrow, but it will be kind of a miserable day. It'll be a reinforcing cold front coming through tomorrow. So the advice is for this Thursday afternoon, October 1st, to get out there and enjoy the day. Temperatures are going to be between 70 and 75. The air is clean. The sky is blue. The sun is shining. And Dan, does it seem to you like the foliage is turning early? It is just beautiful out there.
Absolutely. It's interesting that you say that because it has turned, it seems like you stated, early this year, the colors and the colors. And we thought it might not be this way, but the colors, as you know, have been stunning, Brad.
Yeah, it looks beautiful out there, Dan. I was walking around the property this morning, and I was noticing a lot of leaves have already come down. But it's just beautiful array of yellows and oranges and reds out there, and it's very pretty. I have to think, and again, I'm no arborist, but I have to think that it was the combination of the dry summer and the fact that that third week of September there, we had 4 mornings in a row where temperatures were in the 30s, and many places in Connecticut got frost. So I have to think that there's some kind of combination of dry summer followed by early frost or early freezes that really accelerates the color, because I do not remember late September and the 1st of October, as you say, being so vibrant. It usually takes till much, much later in October to get to this point.
Yes, it really is interesting, as you said, how the colors seem to have changed earlier and the leaves are now falling, and maybe it was that stretch in September. And I know you have a look back as far as September is concerned. So what did you come up with?
Well, finally, Dan, we were about normal for a month in terms of temperature. After that the scorching summer of 2020, June, July, August, where the temperatures all ran between 2 and as much as 4.5 degrees above normal per day. It was just a very, very hot summer. September was much more near normal. Temperatures seem to average slightly above average, less than a degree. And the reason for that is the warm days of the last few days of the month kind of offset that cool streak we had the third week of September. The rainfall was 2.11 inches, which is, again, low. So for the month of September, we averaged about 1.5 inch rainfall deficit. And that 2.11 inches includes the 1.25 inches that we received in the Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe. So hopefully we're kind of turning the corner here and starting to get some more regular rainfall, with the Tuesday, Wednesday rain, and then we're looking at some rain on Friday, October 2nd, and then we're looking for some little bit more rain coming in on Monday, October 5th. So it's looking like maybe we're turning the corner on this drought pattern a little bit. For September, Dan, the highest temperature was 86, and that was back on the 8th. I had made a prediction about 4 or 5 podcasts ago that I did not think we would hit 90 in the month of September, nor did we. We had plenty of those 90-degree readings, though, in June, July, and August, 39 to be exact, eclipsing the record of hitting 90 or higher of 38, which was set back in 1983. The lowest temperature for September, 33 degrees. Now, that's the official reading at Bradley, Dan. That happened on September 22nd, but there were many days, many places that had frost on that day.
The Bradfield Weather Podcast is underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury.
I want to talk a bit about Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, underwriters of our Bradfield Weather Podcast. Action Carpet and Floor Covering has been in business since 1993, serving both residential and commercial customers throughout and beyond Connecticut. A family-run floor covering business since 1993 has undertaken jobs that are big, small. In other words, no job is too small for Action Carpet and Floor Covering. Action Carpet and Floor Covering values all customers, regardless of a project's size. Now, if you want quality craftsmanship with lifetime warranties on labor for all residential installations, Action Carpet and Floor Covering is the place to go. Free estimates on all installations, reliable service with on-time, courteous, and respectful installers working for you. Something else you need to know. Action Carpet and Floor Covering is licensed and insured with professional installers that will get the job done right the first time. Repeat, get the job done right the first time. That's big. Call Action Carpet and Floor Covering today. 860-651-8406. 860-651-8406. Want more information? Go online, action-carpet.com. That's action-carpet.com. Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, voted among the best in its field 5 straight years in Hartford Magazine's Best of Survey, and underwriters of the Bradfield Weather Podcast. Brad, look ahead, and we're going to advance our crystal ball segment just a bit here, but look ahead into October as, again, we're putting this together on October 1st. What does the month look like?
Well, Dan, in terms of climatological normals, and what I mean by that is you go back and you look at October 1st of 1990, and then you look at October 1st of 1991, and all the way up to October 1st of 2020. And you average the high temperatures over those 30 years. Normally in the month of October, to start off the month, the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, we have daytime high temperatures reaching the upper 60s. That is the normal high temperature reading. But again, with the 30-year average, if you go back to October 31st, say 1990, and you average the next 30 years of October 31st, we come up with an average daytime high temperature of about 58. So during the month of October, we can expect a drop in the high temperature from the 1st of about 69 to the 31st of about 58. Nighttime lows start to go down to mid-40s, and by the end of the month, mid-30s. The main driver here, Dan, is, as you always speak of, sunrise and sunset. Sunrise today was at 6:48 a.m. Again, this is Thursday, October 1st. Sunrise today, 6:48 a.m., and sunset is 6:31 p.m. But now we fast forward to October 31st, which I believe is Halloween. It's a Saturday this year, so I think that's Halloween Day. Sunrise on that day is 7:22. So we go from a sunrise of 6:48 on the 1st to a sunrise of 7:22 on the 31st. We lose 34 minutes of daylight in the morning. In the afternoon, it's even more pronounced. The sunset today, October 1st, is 6:31 p.m., but by the end of the month, it's 5:45 p.m., so we lose 46 minutes of daylight on the back end of the day for a grand total of losing an hour and 20 minutes of daylight during this month of October. So with, of course, more darkness, that's why the temperatures start to cool, the sun's angle in the sky getting lower. So we see that temperature drop of about a degree every 3 days or so. So it averages out to about a 10-degree drop in the high temperature and the low temperature over the month of October.
Well, and again, this just goes to prove how much the sunshine and the amount of daylight drives not only our weather, but weather anywhere, Brad.
That's right. And, dare I mention this? Remember the October snowstorm? I mean, we are getting perilously close to starting to have to look at that angle. We'll get 3-4 weeks down the line. The storm comes along. I mean, if you're in late October, first week of November, practically everything has to go exactly right or exactly wrong, depending on your outlook, as to whether or not we get snow. But the point is, we're going to be able to start looking at that as we move along here through the month of October. So, and interestingly, Dan, I talked to you offline about this. Winter forecasts are going to have to start coming out, and I've got one today that I want to discuss with you. But I need you to do me a favor here, Dan. You need to pin me down right now and say, Brad, when is your winter forecast coming out?
Well, okay, we'll start that right now because you always come out with a winter forecast, and it's a feature that people have always looked forward to from your television days to our podcast last year. So when do you expect to come out with your winter forecast?
All right, let's see. October 31st is a Saturday. So if we back off from that, the 30th is Friday, the 29th is Thursday. And we're typically doing our podcasts on Thursday now so that we can give folks a really good look at Friday and whatever the upcoming weekend is. So let's say we will do it Thursday, October 29th. I have always been better in school, at work, whenever, if I have a deadline. If someone tells me this has to be done by this day, because otherwise I will just procrastinate. But now that we've got the day out there, it'll be done. We'll do our special winter forecast on Thursday, October 29th. So the folks that are listening to this can sort of spread the word.
4 weeks from today, in other words.
Yes, 4 weeks from. Dan, I want to tell the folks something else, too, while we're just talking here. And I know you know about this, and I don't even know how this happened because I am very, very careful about my passwords and so forth. But somehow my Facebook account, I have a personal account, Brad Field, for my family and friends. But I had an account that I started when I was back in television that we've been calling over the last several years Bradfield Weather. Well, all of a sudden, it was abducted by 4 people from, believe it or not, Dan, and I know this makes me laugh, Indonesia. Huh. I have no idea how. I have no idea why. As I say, my password is complicated. It's not like some little easy password. It's not like Brad01 or something.
Right.
And so the bottom line is I keep reaching out to Facebook, and you've tried to help me, and people that are much more technically savvy than me My former meteorologist and friend, Tyler Jankowski, who's up in Burlington, Vermont now, doing the weather up there. He's very talented in technical aspects. We cannot figure this out. All of a sudden, they took me off as administrator. Then they took me off as owner of the page. And now the page has vanished. I have no idea where it is. And we have something like 11 or 12,000 followers on that page. So if you've been looking like, well, Brad's been awfully quiet on social media lately. Well, that's why. I'm trying to figure out, we got to figure this out fast because, I want to have another account up and running. But it looks to me like we're going to have to start from scratch again, Dan, and I'm not going to have the 11 or 12,000 people following right off the bat, so we'll have to build it back up. But, I suppose these things happen, and it's, I guess, called cybercrime. But I wonder what anybody would want with my Bradfield weather account. But, somebody in Indonesia now is the proud owner.
Well, back in the day, did you give a forecast that irritated some people in Indonesia? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know about that. So
yeah.
I'm laughing about it now, but I'll tell you, I've been trying for about 2 weeks to get the darn thing back, but I've just finally given up.
Well, I know it's taken up a lot of your time, and I would suggest to anybody who might have a recommendation on how to resolve this issue to get in touch with you, perhaps by way of our website, bradfieldweather.com.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Thanks. That's a good idea. If someone can figure it out, but if I could just talk to a person at Facebook, but I can't. I have not been able to figure out a way to talk to a person. It's just like if you want to report that you've been hacked, press this button, and I've pressed all these buttons, but no one ever gets back to me, and this has been at least a month now. That I think it goes back to September 1st.
Well, you should have said something. I've got Zuckerberg's number right here. No, no, I know what you mean. It's very frustrating when you cannot talk to an individual in order to somehow resolve the issue. But like I said,
I think you should see the names of these people. Well, I can't see them anymore because they're gone. But it looked like hieroglyphics. And to think that these 4 people would all of a sudden become administrators of Bradfield Weather all on the same day, within 4 minutes of each other. One became an administrator, another became an administrator, and then all of a sudden I became what they call an analyst, which you can't really do anything as an analyst, but I still could get on the page a little bit. But then they took me off that, and they actually stole what's called ownership of the page away too. So, if anybody gets anything from Bradfield Weather, it is not me. I have no idea. No idea what they're doing with this.
Okay, well, like I said, hopefully we can somehow resolve it by sending a call out to our podcast audience. Now, you mentioned snow before in your winter forecast. I guess AccuWeather has issued its winter forecast, and what can you tell us about that?
Well, I've always had great respect for AccuWeather. They're one of the original pioneers in the meteorology, actually, and predictions and long-term predictions and so forth. And Dr. Joel Myers, the president of AccuWeather, and Elliot Abrams. I mean, a lot of famous names in the broadcast industry. But the AccuWeather winter forecast has come out, and they're looking at the key driver, and we've kind of hinted around at this the last few podcasts, Dan, that, you make a forecast locally, but you have to think about it globally, because everything that happens on the globe can influence the weather here in Connecticut, believe it or not. And it's just kind of the jet stream blowing around the world with the ridges and the troughs and so forth. And in a La Nina winter, what you have is in the Pacific, the tropical Pacific, the ENSO state, which is the El Nino Southern Oscillation. That's what the ENSO stands for. But when the temperatures are, say, about 5 degrees or more above average for where they should be at the time of year, that's considered an El Nino state. And when the water temperatures in the tropical Pacific are maybe some 5 degrees colder, or even colder than that, below average in the tropical Pacific, that's a La Nina state. Well, in September, we transitioned from neutral into La Nina. And the folks that forecast such things are predicting that the La Nina condition will hold during the course of the winter season for us, which would be December, January, and February. Now, what does this mean? Well, if you've got warmer than average temperatures, El Nino, over the tropical Pacific, you will have more rising columns of air off that water surface. Rising columns of air. So you've got the rising columns of air. The air cools as it moves up through the atmosphere, as it moves up with height. You get the whole condensation process starts because warm air can hold more moisture than cold air. So as the air lifts up through the atmosphere and it cools, you start getting the whole condensation process and cloud formation and ultimately some rain. So over the El Nino waters, you're tending to get more in the way of troughing because you're getting more in the way of storminess. But the opposite is true with La Nina. You get more sinking columns of air, which preclude cloud cover and so forth. So what I mean by all that is if you've got like this year expected ridge over the waters of the tropical Pacific, that induces a downstream trough, which in turn induces a downstream ridge, which in turn induces a downstream trough. And this goes on all around the globe. Well, bottom line here is that we are in a situation where La Nina gives us a much, much more favorable storm track for snow than El Nino. El Nino, when you get the trough over the tropical waters of the Pacific, inducing the downstream ridge, inducing the downstream trough, then inducing the downstream ridge from there, we are in a much less favorable pattern for A, getting cold air, and B, getting a storm track that comes up the coast and gives us snow. So the AccuWeather forecast, they're calling the key driver La Nina, which would influence the weather patterns. And some of the quotes from their lead meteorologist on this is, for overall another mild winter for much of the East with respect to the last 30 years. But, he says, however, near normal snowfall across New England. And what they're expecting, Dan, is a winter bookended by cold and snowy conditions with a pause in the action in the middle of the winter. So as I read more through this, and it's about a 10-page report, you can go see it on AccuWeather.com. But as I read through this, it was interesting to see that they thought that we would start off really cold and snowy, have not much going on after the holidays. So they were predicting a very good chance of white Christmas because they do think it'll be a cold, snowy start. Then a pause in the middle of the season, January and early February, and then they expected it to turn very stormy and cold at the end of the season, late February and March, with some big storms coming up the coast. So they're saying early season chill expected in the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, into the Northeast. Again, that's an early season chill. Mid-season, in other words, after the holidays, they're expecting the storm track from the Midwest into the Great Lakes, which if you've lived around here a long time, you know that that's not good for snow for us. But what you can get is sometimes you can get cold air damming here, and you get the warm air riding in aloft, coming in up at cloud level, So you get snow leaving the cloud, but that turns to rain when it goes into the warmer level, the warmer area, which is just under the cloud. The snowflake will turn to a raindrop, and as it moves down toward the surface, if it encounters a boundary layer below 32 degrees that's thick, there's time for the raindrop to freeze into an ice pellet. And if not, the rain droplet can get super cooled and then freeze on contact and become an ice storm. So sometimes these La Nina winters are noted for ice storms. So we're going to have to be on the lookout for that. But the AccuWeather forecast is saying the track will eventually shift eastward late in the season with potential for big coastal snowstorms. And they're highlighting late February and March for that. And then they go on to make predictions. For example, last winter, Dan, New York City only had 4.8 inches of snow. So the whole winter, 4.8 inches of snow. This year, AccuWeather is predicting for New York City 18 to 24 inches. So that's about 5 times what they had last winter. And for Boston, the entire winter season last year, only about 1.5 feet of snow. Well, this year they're doubling that. They think there'll be around 3 feet of snow in Boston, maybe 3.5 feet of snow in Boston. So somewhere in that 36 to 42 inch range for snowfall. So we'll see. I mean, on the surface, when I read this, I thought it made a lot of sense, and I thought the reasoning was good behind it. But I'm going to give myself like 3 or 4 weeks to look over some more data and get a little closer, look at more jet stream information and long-range computer model products. And again, as I say, we will put out our winter forecast on Thursday, October 29th.
You know, what's interesting about that, Brad, is if there's going to be a lull in the action and then winter picks up its fury in late February and early March, the sun is also higher in the sky, so that's going to impact things as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always this balancing act, Dan. You know, a lot of times you look at a sun right around the winter solstice when it's at its lowest angle in the sky and the days are very short. The sunshine is not very powerful. You can have say you have 6 inches of snow on the ground. You could have a 40-degree day, and not much of that snow melts. Maybe go down a couple of inches to maybe 4 inches. But you take that exact same scenario out in March when you get around the vernal equinox or the first day of spring. In other words, say like March 22nd or something like that. Say you have 6 inches of snow on the ground, and that same exact high temperature reading of 40. The sun's angle is much more steep at that time. The sun's rays are much more direct. That 6 inches of snow could practically vanish in one day. So what you're saying is exactly right. We have all these different competing forces in weather, things that a meteorologist always has to look out for when he or she is, for example, making a snowfall prediction or whatever. So yes, there are a lot of competing values going on here.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what unfolds. And as you said, October 29th, you will release your winter forecast. Of a more immediate note, as we wrap up today's podcast, what does the forecast look like? And again, we're putting this together on Thursday, October the 1st.
All right, Dan. Well, we are ahead of a cold front this afternoon, and it is just going to be beautiful. Sun shining, blue sky, 70 to 75. Now, we'll have a cold front passing through on Friday, October 2nd. So I'm looking for showers with the cloud cover and with the cool front coming through, noticeably cooler. High temperature tomorrow, Friday, about 60. Then we head into Saturday. Looks like there's going to be a high-pressure system north of the Great Lakes. We should see mixed clouds and sun here. Temperatures between, I'd say 60 and 65 or so for Saturday. Sunday, nice big high sitting over the Northeast, over New York State. So it looks beautiful, sunny. Temperatures moving up into the 60s on Sunday. Monday, we've got low pressure from Pittsburgh to off the Delaware coast. I think that's going to bring rain here in Connecticut, a good chance of rain on Monday. Temperature between 56 and 62 degrees. But then by Tuesday, that low has departed. It's up near Nova Scotia. Big high building in around Kentucky. It looks like mixed clouds and sun in the 60s. And then that high pressure system sets up over western North Carolina. Wednesday looks partly sunny and temperatures in the 60s.
Okay, so it looks like we are going to get some of that much needed rain then, is what you're saying.
Right. Again, some light showers on Friday. More of a nuisance. I'd say something on the order of 1/10 of an inch, maybe 2/10 of an inch in some spots, but really not all that beneficial. Then a gorgeous weekend coming up. And then as we head into Monday, a little bit better chance for some steady rain, maybe something like 1/4 to 1/2 inch on Monday with the cool temperatures.
Okay, Brad. Well, as we wrap up the podcast, at this point, we always like to thank our first responders who are on the line every day, particularly during COVID-19. So a big thank you to them, to our podcast audience, to you and Sandy and your family. Have a great weekend.
Dan, to you and Susan and to our whole podcast family, thanks for listening. Spread the word and have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks, Brad. The Brad Field Weather Podcast, underwritten by Action Carpet and Floor Covering of Simsbury, voted among the best in its field 5 straight years in Hartford Magazine's Best of Survey.